Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Alpha platform. I apologize for the background noise. It's just momentary. Before we get started, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We're growing quickly. I wanted to see 2,000 subscribers to say by the end of next week. So get me there, and thank you guys for the support. Let's get started. This is from Yahoo Finance. It says millions of households will have their retirement and savings destroyed. Grant Cardone foresees devastating stock market plunge of 50%. Real estate investor Grant Cardone issued a warning on May 5th regarding the stock market, posting on X, warning, stock market is due for 50% correction, taking S&P below 2,674. Tens of millions of households will have their retirement and savings destroyed by being invested in stock market at these levels. Yeah, I think he meant that as a question. He wrote it as a statement, but that's clearly, a question. Gardone points to the history of the yield curve, which has been inverted for over 500 days. This scenario has occurred only three times since 1920, in 1929, 1974, and 2009. Following each of these periods, the market experienced declines of more than 50%. He emphasizes the compounded financial threat by suggesting that a 50% loss in retirement accounts compounded by inflation could equate to a total loss of purchasing power of 75%. Let's pause. Grant Cardone, he's known for being, a stunt queen, a shock jock. He's known for driving around in nice cars, taking on lots of debt, using debt to, basically become rich. And what I want to say, I don't dispute his claims in terms of the figures and the facts. I do think there could be a stock market crash because we know what's going on. I covered the massive amounts of household debt that we have in America yesterday. I covered that yesterday. I talked about how we have very little retirement savings, how the job market is not looking that great, how inflation is not budging like we want it to, how unemployment is going up as well. So there could be a stock market correction. And I've actually stopped investing in the stock market. So typically every paycheck I will invest in the stock market, but I recently decided to stop. Instead, I just keep putting money into my E-Trade account and just using that to compound purchasing power. So if there is a correction, I can buy stock for cheap in bulk. So that's what I'm doing. Let me know what you guys are doing in the comments below. Let's continue. To mitigate such risks, Cardone recommends transitioning retirement investments from the stock market to real assets that generate monthly cash flow. Um, for those who are W-2 employees, it doesn't work. Our 401k plans are managed by, third parties, and there's nothing we can do about our employer provided 401k plan. We can choose not to participate, or you maybe roll it over to something else. But he's saying to put it essentially into real estate, which is I'm already invested in that as well. Transferring that into something that will generate monthly cash flow like real estate, and that market is already inflated and due for a burst any day as well. So it's like I don't want to advise people. I don't think people should be taking this advice to take out all their retirement investments from the stock market and just put that into something that will generate monthly cash flow. Um, because once again, you have to look at who's going to manage that monthly or that asset that's going to generate monthly cash flow. Who's going to do it? If you know nothing about the industry, you could find yourself bankrupt. You could find yourself in a more dire situation. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. So you really want to be careful about taking these guys' advice because Grant Cardone is heavily invested in real estate, and that would just, an increase in real estate would essentially just increase the money in his pocket and his ability to refinance. And like, if he were to sell his assets, he could essentially, sell that for profit. So I don't think it's great to have a lot of people flooding the real estate market. By doing so, individuals can depend on regular income from these assets during retirement rather than depleting the principal. That's not true. Like we learned during the pandemic, people can easily decide not to pay rent. As landlords in this house, I would say that it just takes one person to decide they don't want to pay rent or they feel like they should not pay rent for it to be a financial mess for you. So think about the strategy and think about it well before you decide to make, such drastic changes. Okay. Jeff Bezos. Nope, nope, nope. Cardone's concerns are indeed supported by historical data, like I said, in economic theory. Over the last 5 decades, there have been 7 instances where the yield curve inverted. Historically, these inversions have been followed by a recession within 6 to 24 months, demonstrating the predictive accuracy of this economic indicator. But we haven't had a recession from what the government is saying, and we won't have one because the government won't allow there to be a recession. The money printing machine, it's not going to turn off, demonstrating the predictive accuracy of this economic indicator. Since 1955, there has only been one occurrence where an inverted yield curve did not lead to a recession, highlighting its reliability as a forecasting tool. But yeah, but back in those days, in the dates that we highlighted, I don't think the government was as heavily involved in saving businesses and companies and the economy from tanking like they are today. Every U.S. recession during this period was preceded by an inversion of the yield curve between the 10-year Treasury bond yield and the 3-month Treasury bill rate. This relationship suggests that yield curve inversions can indeed signal economic downturns as higher short-term interest rates relative to long-term rates often reflect investor pessimism about future economic growth. Excuse me. However, the direct relationship between an inverted yield curve and recessions involve complex factors, right? Including the Federal Reserve monetary policy actions and market expectations. I told you guys, like if the Fed is willing to step in and print money and save companies and businesses and save the economy, this is all BS. When the Fed raises short-term rates, it can lead to an inverted curve if long-term rates do not increase at the same pace, influenced by investors' expectations for slower economic growth and lower future interest rates. So let's read some comments here. I'm going to stop with that article to read some comments because I'm just not thinking that's going to be the case. See, look, this is what Anthony said. Stick to your field. If you're a real estate person, stick to that. He's advising to buy real estate. Did he forget the 2009 stock crash was caused by the real estate market and stop selling those high price programs? So people know who he is. They know what he's about. They know him for his works. Again, if you were to flood the real estate market, like he said, it would just line Grant Cardone's pockets. It would increase his profits, and he would just immediately go to selling his investments to make cash and, move on with his life. Gentle says, when you are close to retirement or retired, you should have 3 years worth saved so you don't have to sell. On January 1st, 2008, the S&P 500 was at 1378.55. It dropped to 825.88 by January 1st, 2009. By January 1st, 2010, it had recovered to 1073.87 and was at 1286.12, on January 1st, 2011. And it was to the races after that. Sure, these shocks can happen. If you're young, they are buying opportunities. Yes, like I said, they are buying opportunities. I stopped buying stocks. Like I told you guys, I'm just putting money into that E-Trade account, waiting for this. If there is a correction, just waiting for it to happen. If there is no correction, essentially, I still have money to buy stocks in bulk. Last one. Imagine getting a real estate guy to give advice to buy real estate and to dump another asset class, stocks, because it might drop 50%. Conflict of interest. Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next thing about the food, what's going on with our food system. This is from Tyson Foods. And before I get started, you guys, I did a video about Tyson Foods on my channel before. Essentially, the company found itself in hot water in a boycott because they fired, I think, thousands of U.S. employees, American citizens in Iowa, and replaced them with illegal immigrants. So a lot of Americans have been upset about that, and they have decided to boycott this company. So let's see what Tyson is saying. Tyson Foods warns low-income consumers are cracking under inflation storm. Tyson Foods, the second largest producer of animal protein globally, plunged the most in 1 year after cautioning that heightened inflation is severely impacting its working poor customers, leading them to reduce their purchases of ready-to-eat products from its brand. I just want to stop right there. Once again, this company, you have to keep this in mind. Maybe this is true. But I do know that a lot of American citizens have decided to boycott Tyson Foods, and they may be feeling that pressure from that boycott. For laying off all those, American citizens and replacing them with migrants. They may be feeling that economic pressure, and they're blaming it on the low purchasing power of the American poor. This ominous warning comes 1 week after McDonald's and Starbucks warned that low-income consumers are starting to crack. During an earnings call on Monday, Melanie Bolden, who oversees Tyson's prepared foods business, was asked by Bank of America's Peter Galbo about commentary around quick service, casual dining, and non-commercial. Excuse me, this must be the interview. I'm not going to play it. Bolden responded, so Peter, in both retail and food service, as you know, The consumer is under pressure, especially the lower income households, and in retail, we're seeing roughly 20% cumulative inflation over the last 3 years. Now, the inflation impact, coupled with historically low savings rates, has created a more cautious, price-sensitive consumer, and we're also seeing a cautious consumer prioritize essential staples over discretionary categories. But yet, savings rates are plummeting, but people are still using that credit card. So they're saying we don't have money to pay for retail and pay for fast food and foods, but somehow our credit card debt keeps going up. So I think that people are still using their credit cards to pay for these items. They're not just going without them, and that's the major problem. They're not going without them. Bowden's comments raised serious questions about the company's ability to boost profitability after sliding in recent quarters. As for the rest of the year, Chief Financial Officer John Tyson warned investors uncertainties remain around consumer strength and behavior. Tyson added, when we factor in these variables with pork and prepared foods seasonality, there are reasons to believe that Q3 could be weaker than Q4. Excuse me. A lot of companies are feeling this way about their profits. They're not sure. We're seeing mass layoffs. I talked to you guys about how my company's moving the majority of our workload over to Mexico and how I'm handling that situation. I've actually decided to apply for a new position because I just don't. I think it's an ominous sign. It's an ominous warning, and I just want to, keep myself, my household protected. The gloomier outlook weighed on shares in New York on Monday, sliding more than 8%. If intraday losses hold, it will be the worst day since May 8, 2023. Okay. Oh, there's some comments. Let's read the comments. I'm going to get out of here. Let's see here. Give me just a moment, you guys. Oh, let me go see them. Oh, here we are. I'm sorry. Excuse me. President Joe Biden, I did that. You can't blame the economy on one man. Like the economy is global, it's multifaceted. I just wonder why people still want to blame the economy on one person, the president of the U.S. To me, that's like thinking like a child. That's very childlike thinking, and I think that it's just a ploy from the Republicans to find someone to blame to get Donald Trump back into office. So I don't like either one, Biden or Trump. I'm just saying, like, stop blaming the economy on one person. Greta Thunberg, you stole my childhood. Okay, these look like a bunch of trolls. Okay, let's see if I can find some real comments. My rabbits are looking at me. Okay, you stole my wife, you horse thief. Oh my gosh, come on, people, give me some real comments. Okay, here we go. Miriam, grocery prices are going crazy even here in Arizona. Went shopping Saturday and spent $311, half a basket full and only two items of meat. We can't go on like this anymore. With World War III looming, I'm sick of Biden politics. Biden is not the source; he's just the front for the ones driving all this. Exactly. These politicians are heavily in bed. I would say heavily in bed with the companies, and we really need to be looking at these companies and these businesses that are funding these politicians because they're driving the economic and political policies of this nation. So blaming everything on one person doesn't make sense. They are being the ones who are vastly overrepresented in Biden's cabinet. I don't agree. In Trump's last cabinet, in Trump's future cabinet, definitely some people will be coming back, said the orange ass. Okay, let's see if I can find one more serious comment. Safe to say that the Federal Reserve has failed miserably in its actual mandate of stable purchasing power. M2 is already rising, QT ending, rates set up to be reduced, and the cost of living and asset prices skyrocketing. You ain't seen nothing yet. All right, you guys. So that's it for today. What are you guys preparing? What are you guys doing to prepare for an economic downturn? To prepare for possibly being laid off, maybe decreasing your wages, a decrease in the stock market. I've talked to you guys about the importance of looking overseas, like especially for people in retirement. I really don't understand retiring in America. Why don't you look to retire in a different country where the cost of living is much lower? and that's what I think is the best thing to do at this time in time and day in America. As someone who's a millennial who's 34 years old, I'm definitely looking at that as well. It's like it's too expensive to live here. Maybe just come back here for medical care, but have your household elsewhere. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Do not forget to like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for the support. Again, let's get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of next week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Once again, take care and peace.